In this lesson, I wanted to add in a brand new method in order to be able to add and update our list of items. So we already have this pop-up here, so I'm going to just update this one to add in a value. And I'm going to update and move that button over to up here so that it's more in line with our input field. And we're going to take the value from message here and we're going to just add in an item. So maybe pop-up might not be the best, so maybe we'll just call it add item or something like that. So that makes a little bit more sense there for the method. And update pop-up and add item. And so all we have to do is now, so before we looked at and we found out that we have access to all of this data here within the scope. So that means that we have access to the items object array within this method. And all we have to do is call to this items, and this way we can add in new information to there. So if I do this items and I do push, this gives me the ability to push some object information into there. And now I just need to specify this task. So maybe what I want to do is I want to use this message as a task, and by default I want to have it completed as false. So let's take a look at this and see how this works out. So new task, add item, we see that it gets added in. It's added into our object array, so we can type in whatever we want and we can continue to add in multiple tasks there in our list, and everything still works the same way. So we see that we can dynamically update and click these. So maybe what I want to do too is I want to update these to have a different maybe font size or something like that. So let's just take a look at that div, and I'm going to call to div, and I'm going to create font size and add some padding there. So maybe 10 pixels or something like that, so that we can see our list a little bit better there. So now we see that whatever items we're adding in are being added into our list. And as we're going through, we see them getting listed out. And all of them have the functionality where I can click and uncheck them. That's all there is to creating this type of list. We've got all of this dynamic functionality all ready to go within Vue. All we had to do is add in a separate function to handle the addition of items, adding it into the array. And we had our ability here to add the item into the list and so on. We can even add in another method in order to delete it from the list. So maybe if we want to add a second one, delete item, and I'm going to do another function here. So again, we're going to pass through that value. And first of all, maybe we'll just console log out the value that's being passed so we can take a better look at it, and we can see that there's already going to be some default content being added in there. And the really cool thing about Vue is that it already is going to have some built-in functionality for that. So that's going to be the really neat thing there. So I'm going to just add another button, X, and this one I believe was called DL item. So this will give us the ability to actually completely delete it from the list. So by pressing that X, I need to keep it within the span there. So how about that? So we have another item there, and whenever I click, we see we get this mouse event. So we get that mouse event information being passed, and we've got all of this information being passed here. So we've got the path here and so on. So we can fairly easily actually remove this from our list. So going in here, and actually I believe so I believe we can really easily, we can use one of these default functions that are available within Vue. So I'm going to see if I can pull it up here so we can get some more information. So what it's going to be called is remove. So just taking a quick look through here. and we're able to remove any element from an array. So it's going to select that active one, and essentially it's going to call that array splice. So we can either use remove or we can use array splice. So we're just going to keep in sync with what we're doing here, we can do this items, and all we have to do is specify the $ remove and remove that current value. So it's going to pick up that index information and remove it from the list. So let's check this out and see how that works. So I can add in items, and right now it's still toggling it, so let's see what happened here. So we've got on click, where, because I think we're still toggling that out, so we probably need to come up with, maybe we have to add that underneath there. So let's take another look at that and see why that's not firing off properly. So instead of remove, maybe I'll just try out with splice, and I'm not really exactly sure what's happening there, so we're just going to do the value 1 splice, refresh this, and see how now this is going to work out. So now whenever we add items in, we also have the option to remove them, and it's not looking exactly right, so maybe I'll put that button back in that div there and see how this turns out. So now I can add a bunch of items here, and we can see that when it gets clicked, so there is an issue there between that clickable items, so maybe we need to take that click off of there and wrap another span there, add that click to this span, and see how this turns out now. So maybe that should fix things. So we have the ability to uncheck and check it again, and actually I should add one more thing in here, that whenever this whenever we've added the message, maybe we're going to update this message and equal it to just be blank, so that we're not constantly re-adding the same thing. So whenever we add the item, it clears out that message area. We can click them all to green, check them off, and we also have the ability to remove it entirely from the list. So I'm just going to add in a bunch more items there, and we can see that we've got all the functionality we need in order to create a checklist. And of course you can make this look a lot nicer, maybe adding in some additional styling and so on, maybe using some glyph cons instead of the regular text. And that's really going to be up to you in order to work with our current example and practice and see what you can do to create this view list and to complete this project using Vue.